Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Sophia, and I have my friend Alex LeBrec here with me. And welcome to Queen City Healthy Sex and Relationships podcast. I am with a fellow podcasting recorder, and Alex has a podcast called the Charlotte Dating Podcast, and she had me on her podcast a few weeks ago, and I left with a bunch of questions, and I was just so interested in what Alex is doing and what's happening in Charlotte. I'm new to Charlotte. I'm just opening up a practice there this past year. So I'm super excited and interested to talk more with Alex. We could have talked for hours that day, so I'm sure we're going to have more conversations back and forth. My practice focuses in relationships and sex therapy, sex addiction, intimacy, connection. I also do grief and trauma work. So I am very interested in what's going on in Charlotte as far as dating goes. A lot of my clients are either coupled or they are single now and will be trying to work their way towards a relationship at some point. And so I'm super interested in what's going on out there. So Alex, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. Like you said, I felt like we had such a very interesting conversation last time around what it is to be in a healthy relationship and how people can use some practices, not city specific necessarily, just kind of for anyone getting into it. And I love talking about dating. So I'm excited to be on here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I love talking about dating too. I love so much working with clients when they are finally ready to do my dating plan. It is so much fun and they're having a fun time, and dating should be fun. It shouldn't be something that people are dreading or that's arduous or scary. It should be fun. And so talk to me a little bit, Alex, like what inspired you to create this podcast? Tell me a little bit about you, who you are, how you got interested in this.
Yeah, for sure. So I am 24 and I really hadn't dated around too much because I was in a relationship all through college when I feel like a lot of people were experiencing dating for the first time. And so I kind of got thrown into dating right at the same time as I was experiencing a lot of like really big life changes. I had just graduated college. I moved to New York City for the first time, didn't have a job yet. So I was living with new roommates, new city, trying to find a job, and then also going on dates really for the first time since I was 18, which was really weird for me and really exciting at the same time. And so it was almost kind of all that me and my roommates would talk about for a while because we all were single. We all were having so much fun going and meeting different people and trying Hinge or meeting people at bars or doing these weird, mingle activities and stuff. And it was just like a really exciting time in my life. And when I moved back to Charlotte, I had already worked at Queen City Podcast Network for half of my college career, just part time producing different shows based locally in the city. And my boss was like, "You're young, you're single." And I feel like there's a really missed opportunity in Charlotte to have a podcast about dating. There's so many young people here. And there's so many new places popping up that small business owners are trying to come up with new hip ideas for people to get out. So why wouldn't we have a dating podcast and would you host it? And I was really hesitant at first because I feel like the most famous one out there was Call Her Daddy. And it's very successful, but I just was hesitant to kind of throw myself out there publicly like that. That was the only example I saw of a young woman talking about dating, and it seemed very sex based, at least at first. And I was nervous it was going to go in that direction or that's what he wanted. And he assured me, like, no, absolutely not. That's not how people are dating. That's not what I want. What I want is a podcast for people in Charlotte that are really serious about meeting people, that are really excited to try new places. And I want there to be a takeaway at the end of every episode that's serious, like what did we gain from this episode and how is that going to help single people in Charlotte? So that's where I got excited, and I started thinking up of ideas of people that owned cool places in Charlotte to talk to give people ideas of where to go out, people with relationship stories that started or ended in Charlotte, and just like, people like yourself that are working in Charlotte, that are professionals that are dealing with people on a deeper level of trying to have those relationships healthily. So I'm excited about the idea. It's coming out hopefully in the next month or so. We're just trying to get some episodes in the vault before we start releasing them back to back, since I do have a day job that pays rent. And I can't necessarily record every day as much as I'd like to. So yeah, it's turned out really well and I'm really excited so far.
I think that's excellent. And by the way, you really do a nice job in your podcast. You're super comfortable to talk with and be with and even talk about hard topics with. So I know that you're going to be wildly successful and this is going to be great for you. And I'm excited because whenever we can talk about something that's serious and that has consequences to it, but do it in a way that is relaxing and doesn't feel so serious and not like it's so heavy and weighty. Whenever we can hear from people like yourself around that, and dating is important. I mean, yes, it's supposed to be fun, but it's also important. It's something that people, I would like to think are going to do intentionally at some point in their lives. And it sounds like that's what you're really getting at, is less about the fun aspects of course, we want to be having fun when we're dating. That's sort of the easy part. What's a little trickier is who is worthy of us continuing to go have fun with. How do we determine who those people are when we are dating lots of people at one time, which is incidentally what I think is a really good idea to do at the beginning, so that we don't get like honed in on, oh, I've got to make it work with this one person. It's really like, if we're seeing different people at the same time, not very regularly, the right people kind of rise to the top. And those are the people that we want to focus on. But it sounds like, I'm excited about what you're doing, because you're so young to be thinking about being intentional around this. And I just think that's a really important thing. I really do, for young women and for young men.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And it was really funny too, because I agree with your idea of putting yourself out there and meeting a bunch of different types of people, or just, if not to get to know different personalities alone, to also have different experiences. And like, it just helps you grow as yourself too. And I am dating someone now who had a very different view of it, and we're the same age, where he also got out of a very serious relationship around the same length of time. He was dating this person for 3 years and didn't date anyone in between when he started dating me. And that blew my mind, because I was like, that scares me. Like, how do you even know? Like, you didn't get to like, go see, this was your free time. Like, go date a bunch of people, do a bunch of like fun stuff with people that you normally don't see, especially now that we're adults and we're not stuck in this bubble of college where everyone's pretty similar to you. Um, and he like has a totally different take on that. And he's like, no, like, why would I not date super intentionally? Like, I'm super fine being single and it doesn't bother me to be alone, quote unquote. And I'm not going to date someone unless I'm really, really interested. So it was funny to have two ends of the spectrum on that. And like, that's why I was excited to talk to more young people that are out there, because everyone has their own take on what's gonna do it for them, whereas I was like, if I would have a panic attack if I just started dating you right after my 3-year relationship. I'd be like, wait, I don't even know if I like you, maybe I'm just like attached. So it's interesting how people go about it differently and what works for them, I guess.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Tell me a little bit. I'm curious as to what you're seeing. Like, what are the trends that you're seeing with young people your age? And I'm also curious, are you also actually, when we talked, I think you mentioned you did talk with people who were older than you as well, who were out and about in the evenings. But let's start with people your age. What are some of the trends that you're seeing around dating for people, say, in their 20s and early 30s?
Yeah. Funny enough, I feel like we're so young and this should be the exciting part, but it's almost like we're getting dating burnout. It's
Mhm.
really exciting for maybe the first month, and then people just start to get really frustrated. I think a lot of us use apps to seriously start meeting people and go on dates with the intention of having a relationship and not just a hookup. And people are kind of scheduling these and making a lot of time after work to go meet these people out. And if it doesn't work out after a few weeks or a month, they just want to delete the app. And maybe that's because dating's on their phone now and it's now they're really always thinking about it. And it's so easy to go message people and check in on how things are going. And it's just top of mind. But yeah, I feel like people there's like some anxiety around it a little bit just because if things don't work out right away, they just feel so burnt out from trying so hard and so constantly that then they take a break for a couple months until they start again. For most people that I've talked to.
That makes sense to me. When you think about it, like the way dating used to be was kind of word of mouth. Hey, I've got this friend, or you happen to go to a party and you meet somebody and you kind of hit it off. And, with generations, which obviously would be yours and some a little older, who are used to having the instant gratification of like technology, like, oh, I need this thing. Let me get on Amazon and order it. Oh, it's here tomorrow. Oh, I think I want to have a boyfriend. Oh, let me get on this app. Oh, why aren't they here tomorrow? And so,
Yeah.
where's my boyfriend? And so I can really see what you're saying that, and also probably what you're saying is exactly right. People go hard. They go hard on the apps. They're going out, they're chatting, and it's not working out. And so they're probably feeling discouraged and maybe even like, what's wrong with me? That it's
Hmm.
it's not working. Like, oh, it looks like it's working so easily for these other people, that I see on social media. Well, of course, everyone's life looks perfect on social media. We know that's not reality. But I could see that that's really a thing for your generation. That would be hard, and it could bring on some discouragement, maybe some fear also.
Yeah. Yeah. I think rejection's a real thing when I really don't know anyone that doesn't have at least, four people that they're talking to on an app at a time. And so then you feel like at any given point you have four people that you could potentially have a connection with and then none of them work out. And you know that they're on an app talking to other people too, probably, and they have the same quote unquote roster, starts to feel like, wow, like my odds felt really big. And if I'm striking out, like, what am I doing? Or what are they messaging that person about that worked? And, it's nice to have so many options and for people to be so accessible because you can meet so many people. But then if it doesn't work out, it feels probably all the worse.
Yeah, I think it probably does. I would love for your podcast and also the work that I do is around this, which is like when it doesn't work out, it's not about us. It's really about the match, just not being the right match. So it's not really a reflection of us. It may or may not be a reflection of the other person. To them, it's really not. It's about the match. So I would love for people, especially young people your age, to feel more confident in that it's not that there's anything wrong with us. It's that it's about the match. And especially even if someone does reject us, rejection is actually about the other person. It's not about us. Rejection is a reflection of that other person who's doing the rejecting or who's being
Mhm.
avoidant. So that's kind of the same thing, rejection and avoidance. So, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I read it's a very popular yogi book and I'm not even a yoga person, but The Mastery of Love, it's probably on my bedside table. Yeah. Don Miguel Ruiz. I read it back in high school and it really changed my life just because I remember that was one of the main takeaways. It's an entire book about how to really like master being in love, loving yourself, that kind of thing to make you better at relationships. And one of the main things he said is just nothing's personal and you always have to remember that. And he really went into depth with how that works in your relationships with other people, and it stuck with me because it is, like you said, very true. I mean, if I'm going out on a date with someone and it's just not clicking, it's not because that's the worst, cringiest, weirdest person in the whole wide world. It's like, no, like maybe they just reminded me of my least favorite math teacher, and that was it for me. And there's no control you have over that. And to take that experience away and then start to change how you are or think of yourself differently is ridiculous, because everyone has something that they're bringing to the table before they even meet you that could totally sway the situation. So yeah, no, but it's hard to remember that when you spent 4 hours on your makeup, bought a new outfit, and this guy doesn't text you back.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I wonder if, gosh, that sounds familiar. Like I'm much older than you. I'm turning 54 tomorrow. And, as women, I'm wondering, why do we give our power away to men? And, why do we let them determine if we're worthy or not, if they text us back, call us back? I'm just, I wonder about that. I mean, do you have any thoughts around that? Or is there any way that that's changing for your generation? I hope so.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if I'm speaking for other people or not. So I will speak for myself. I know that especially being out of college, there's some type of age anxiety too with people in their 20s, where we have this idea of our biological clocks of, okay, well, this guy's seen in front of me has endless options, right? He could potentially stay single till he's 55 and then still have kids and get all the things he wants. But I really have this window, and he can meet anyone, like tomorrow he could meet someone that's 3 years younger than me and really hit it off. And like, that's that. And so I feel like that's part of it. And I remember this was like a nightmare date, but I was in New York and it really like struck me because I always thought that was maybe something I made up in my head, and it wasn't as awful as I thought. And I was on a date with this guy, and we were just joking around, eavesdropping on the couple next to us that was also on a first date. And they were a little bit older. And so I left and I kind of made a joke because I knew that we were both eavesdropping. Neither one of us were admitting it. And I was like, so do you think it went well? And he immediately knew what I was talking about. And he was like, no, not at all. She's too old. And I was like, what do you mean? They're the same age. And he said that straight out, was just like, well, you have to understand, like, guys can go for anyone. So, I mean, she really has one more year of eligibility of being hot. And then after that, he's just going to go someone that's 23, 24, and she's just probably going to be single after that. And I was like, wow, like it's just that added anxiety of like, I have a small window, maybe I need to settle sort of thing. Which makes dating, I think, a little bit scarier for women, especially when there's like awful guys out there that validate that opinion.
Yeah. That's what I heard with that story, was the awful guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't know someone is not very mature or developed till you go out with them, right? Because when you're chatting and texting, he's great. And so, boy, I'm just gonna say you dodged a big damn bullet.
Yeah.
That he was able to show who he was. What a smart thing to do was to have a conversation about someone else to see how he would step into that shit, right? And
Yeah.
and show you who he was, so that you could go a different direction. But we don't know who those people are until we go out with them. I mean, and we have to try things out. We have to try people out, and that's why it's definitely so important to go slow in some ways. A little self-disclosure. I've been divorced twice and as I've gotten older and dated, and I think I might be done dating now, but I've had a really good time dating all those times. What I actually noticed was, speaking to what you just brought up, I noticed that as people get older, not all people, but the people I was meeting, they learned how to be better liars.
Oh no.
And I was
Don't
like,
say that.
what in the hell? And so I just couldn't, I was like so like not understanding that. Like it would seem to me, and this is who I am, is the older I get, I mean, it's like I am who I am. I'm not, I can't pretend that I'm someone I'm not. I'm this person. So I'm not even going to bother learning how to lie at this point and pretend like I'm someone new and then flip on someone when I, am in a relationship. But that is what a lot of people do. I do know a lot of men do that. Do women do that? Of course they do. I don't date women personally. So I don't have that experience, but I do know that a lot of people that I work with, a lot of people that I've dated, so that people don't leave them, they will sort of present that they're someone different until they kind of reel someone in. And so that's great that you got this guy to
Mm,
again talk about someone else so that he could show who he is. Um, but yeah, any thoughts around that? That probably does scare you a little.
yeah, I mean, it is a lot of added anxiety of, because I'll be honest, it's not the first time it wasn't the last time I heard it. Like, I was at a work outing and a guy almost word for word said the same exact thing to me, who is older. He's like 30. And I was like, that's so crazy that there's a mentality out there that guys just have more options. Like the world is our oyster up until we're 28, and then, power shifts and now all of a sudden we can't be so picky. That's a scary thought, and I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on people my age to find someone, and it's why people freak out on their 30th birthday if they're still single, which is so crazy because you're so young. But it is a real thing. So yeah, I think, one bad egg can kind of ruin it for everyone when it validates the exact insecurity that you had in your head.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if 10 other guys tell you that's not true. You'll just convince yourself that those two guys that were a-holes were just being honest. So that stinks.
That does stink. I want to speak to all the women out there, you included. Like as we get to know ourselves better, we can actually call in different people. So, back when I was your age, I was making not great choices. We have to kind of go through things and then we learn some lessons and then we do things slightly differently the next go round, maybe the next go round. There is no age limit on dating or on coupling or partnering. We have many, many, many soulmates out there. We don't have one. We don't even have two. We probably have hundreds and thousands. And so it's a matter of learning how to do our work here so that we're actually attracting a higher quality person. That's really the key. That's like the deep personal work to do. There is no timeline. I want to promise you and all women out there. I mean, I think when we were doing your podcast, or we might have talked about it afterwards, there was a woman, she's an actress, I don't remember who she is, but she just turned 50 and she's pregnant and she was not trying to get pregnant. It was like, her body is healthy. She got pregnant. And those things happen. And so it's really about I think doing the personal work here so that you're attracting enough of the right kind of guy that you don't feel that pressure. Because someone who is valuing you for who you are, it doesn't matter what age you're at. Like I found my third soulmate and I'm 53. And I mean, if we broke up, I'd find another. And so, I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, what I'm saying is there's lots of people out there. It's about us calling in the right, really different, like learning from each of these experiences. That's why it's so important that you're having these experiences, you're talking about them. And I'm going to like send you all kinds of my strong, assertive female vibes that the next time a male says that to you, you can smack him in the head and tell him to go fuck himself and that that's not true. And he's going to be the one who's going to be alone with that attitude.
Right. Yeah, no, I luckily in both situations had a few drinks in me, and I'm not shy to speak my mind. So they definitely
Good.
got it the first time around, but you still leave the table and, it sticks with you a little bit because you're like, that was kind of a nasty thing to say. But no, I think the other thing that helps too, and that's why I was excited about the podcast, is just having conversations with other people that are experiencing a lot of the same things, so that you're not just keeping this to yourself and spiraling and thinking it's just you out there. It's so helpful, no matter what you're going through, to have people just talk it out with you or share something that resonates with you that you thought no one else had experienced. So, like, I mean, that helped me so much when I was going through my breakup, where I could have sworn I was the only person that had ever truly been in love ever in my whole life, and no one understood it. And then you just hear someone say something so specific, like, oh, I remember it feeling like this. And you're like, oh, so other people have gone through this and have survived it, and it is going to be okay. That's better than like any other medicine that you could possibly give someone. So,
Yeah, being able to connect around things that are hard, around tough experiences, but connection in general is really important. Um, so tell us a little bit more about, like, what are some of the exciting things you have planned for your podcast?
yeah. So, I know for our next recording, actually, we're doing like a dating nightmares podcast for that exact reason. I think I mentioned it before, where everyone thinks that they have like a scary, interesting story. They're not necessarily the most interesting, because everyone on the planet has a bad dating story, but like, we're looking for the really juicy ones that like, I don't know where you found this person and why cameras weren't rolling. That's what we're looking for. Definitely ran into some people. And then another episode too, just about like your ex's family.
Mm,
um I think, the people that come along with the people you're dating can be just as important as the person themselves, and navigating that relationship is a whole other story. So I'm excited to talk about that a little bit. And then I have another episode that we recorded with a dance club in Charlotte, because my grandparents met, who I never got to meet. They met each other at a dance. And that was always a huge thing in their relationship, is they love to dance, like just from stories I've heard about them. And I actually have a book of letters that they used to write each other back and forth. And they mention it a lot. And I was like, this is such an old timey, like, romance story type meet cute that you don't think exists anymore outside of like the 50s. I'm curious to see if there's people that are kind of keeping this old romance alive. So I did find a dance club and went just to see what the vibes were, like who was going. And it was perfect. Like, there was so many surprises there, people young, old, single, married, dating. Um and like, it was an awesome community. I got to have a lot of cool conversations with people about love, relationships, and just people that they had met through that club, that I'm excited to put out. It was a fun night for me. I had a lot of red wine and I stepped on some people's toes, but like, we got some good recording.
what a fun night. I'm sure that was. And I love your topics. I love the family piece. Because yes, absolutely. Families they're kind of like, they come along with your partner, right? No matter what age. But also, like, how important is it to pay attention to the red flags of the family? Like, when you make it to that first Thanksgiving dinner, or your first whatever, and you get to kind of observe what's going on in the family, that's really important too, during the dating process.
Hmm. Yeah, because I mean, everyone has their wacky characteristics, and I would hate. I mean, I warned my boyfriend before he came to my family reunion. I was like, please don't judge me. It's gonna be a crazy weekend. But like you said, there are still some things that you need to consider. You don't want to ever not date someone because of other people in their life, but there's definitely some situations where it's kind of like a warning sign, that, maybe I should talk to you more about, of like a professional opinion of what matters and what does not matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, even as professionals, like in our own personal life, I missed red flags, both marriages before I got married. I mean, incidentally, I've actually gone into those areas of work, professionally, so I won't miss it again, hopefully. But yeah, but it's important. It is important to pay attention to like things like alcoholism. Is is there like a norm of lots of heavy drinking going on in a family? Well, that's just something to pay attention to, if it happens very regularly and it's the norm of how the family connects. That's just a very common example that I know I've experienced. And so, I think that's probably a pretty common thing for a lot of people. But there's other things out there too, like avoidance or, um, you know, the ways that people talk to each other, if it's not kind, if there's meanness, that's something that I think people don't pay enough attention to as meanness. So yeah, I think that those are really good. Those are good topics. I'm excited when your podcast is launched so that we can hear them all. That's going to be really good. Anything else, Alex, that you want to share with us?
I like I said, I've just been able to talk to so many cool people. I feel like this podcast has been my excuse to just ask questions to strangers that I would normally not be bold enough, but like now I get to be like, "Oh, I work for a podcast, so tell me." So it's been fun getting people to be honest, and like I said, I think the biggest takeaway I've had is I maybe came in a little pessimistic about girls having the only tough time finding intimate relationships and people that were serious at my age, but I've really been pleasantly surprised at how many guys have been pretty honest about struggling with a lot of the same things and feeling the same frustrations with, online dating and meeting people out organically, as we say now. So I think, there's a lack of communication there and how much we are searching for the same things. And maybe we just need a little bit help of communicating that well and going to the right places. So hopefully, I can be some help in that. But I was really excited to find that almost from the very first episode that I recorded is how much things are pretty equal between girls and guys and queer relationships too. Like we're all looking for the same thing. So we just need to chat it out, I guess.
I agree. I work with well, mostly predominantly with men, but I still work with a lot of females, a lot of people in lots of diverse ways, gender diverse ways, and absolutely, all kinds of people are getting burned out there, and all kinds of people are looking for a safe, healthy connection. And then there's your outliers, and they're involved in every group too. Male, female, everything in between, that they're interested only in casual sex, and they don't know how to have deep, intimate relationships, or they're not interested, or there's some kind of addiction going on. And so there's definitely that's there. And I guess like when it comes to dating, do you have any dating advice that you'd like to give people?
Yeah, I feel like I'm always the friend that people are like, "Oh, you're so confident." Like you're just you kind of let it rub off or like run off your shoulder. I think that's helped me a lot.
Mm.
And I feel like the friends I've known just finding your own confidence and like you said not taking anything personally is going to take you so far and it's going to attract the right people. So take a break if you need to, switch up your routine, go after maybe someone different, but don't change who you are because that's not going to attract the right people. So just be yourself. Don't take it personally if they ghost you. We're all doing the same things.
Yeah, it's about them. It's not about us. Yeah,
Right.
whoever avoids or rejects or ghosts, that's their deal. It's not about us. And yeah, that's a good one. Don't change who you are. I mean, I might even take that one step further, which is um that actually reinforces that negative critical voice. Because then we're playing into, it really is about me. I'm not good enough. So I've got to change this. I've got to, make my hair look like this, or, whatever it is, so that I'm more attractive. And yeah, just keep being who you really are, keep being authentic. And I love the stories where people who they're not interested, they're not even looking, they're just kind of living their life. And that's like when plop, the right match, like you kind of bump into them and they just fall right in your life. And that's kind of a neat thing when that happens too.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what everyone says happens, and, like, it did happen to me, so it is true. You really attract good energy when you're putting that out there, and the best way to do that is to just do whatever makes you happy and be yourself and, not stress about things, and then all of a sudden people are like, "Huh, that's hot.
Yeah,
Who are you?"
exactly. Exactly. That's so well put. Yeah, I'm going to end it there because that was perfect. That's exactly right. And I just appreciate you being here, Alex. I look forward to us talking more. I'm excited about your podcast, and I really appreciate you being my guest today. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
See ya. Bye.